Are you degenerates? Welcome back to the deep dive. This time we're strapping into the Aston Martin and peeling out into the world of Spectre.
The 2015 Bond flick.
The one that nearly gave Sony Pictures a goddamn aneurysm.
Eh.
Forget the shaken martinis and tight dresses for a sec. We're going deep on the behind-the-scenes shitstorm that almost derailed this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Budget blowouts, legal battles that would make a lawyer shit their pants.
Absolutely.
Studio execs probably downing bottles of scotch to cope with the whole goddamn mess.
It's wild how this film became a battleground between artistic vision and the cold, hard reality of studio economics.
Yeah.
Eon Productions, the Bond custodians,
Right.
they wanted to deliver a spectacle worthy of the franchise, but Sony was staring at a budget that could fund a small country and wondering if they'd ever see a return on their investment.
Let's cut the crap and get down to brass tacks. How much did this cinematic shit show actually cost?
Estimates range from $245 to $300 million.
Holy shit.
It's one of the most expensive films ever made.
Even by Bond standards.
Even by Bond standards.
No wonder Sony was sweating bullets. What exactly were they freaking out about?
Well, the Sony Pictures hack gave us a peek behind the curtain. Thanks to those leaked emails.
Right.
They were worried about everything, the spiraling costs, the insane stunts, the exotic locations.
I mean, it is a Bond film, right?
Exactly, but they even tried to pressure Eon into scaling things back, suggesting cheaper alternatives, like maybe Bond could drive a Honda Civic instead of a goddamn Aston Martin.
That Eon wasn't having any of that penny-pinching bullshit, were they?
Not a chance. They knew that Bond films demand a certain level of extravagance. They fought tooth and nail to preserve their vision, arguing that the spectacle was crucial to the film's success.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they weren't entirely wrong. Spectre raked in a whopping $880 million worldwide.
So Sony was popping champagne and lighting cigars, right? All that sweet, sweet cash rolling in.
Well, not quite. This is where things get interesting. Despite the box office success, Sony's actual profits were significantly lower than expected.
Oh, come on.
Seems like those massive production costs, along with distribution fees and other expenses, ate a huge chunk of their earnings.
Talk about a kick in the balls.
All right.
It's like throwing the most epic party imaginable and then waking up with a mountain of debt and a hangover that could kill a rhino.
It's a pretty apt analogy, but it highlights the power struggle between these two entities. Sony, the pragmatic moneymen, trying to balance the books, and Eon, the artistic guardians, fiercely protective of the Bond legacy.
Classic Hollywood tale, right?
Oh yeah, creativity versus commerce.
All right, let's ditch the financial doom and gloom for a sec. We got to talk about the legal drama surrounding Spectre, specifically the rights to the Spectre organization itself. This whole thing sounds like a goddamn soap opera.
It's a saga that spans decades and involves enough legal wrangling to make your head spin. It's called the Thunderball controversy, and it all boils down to a dispute over who owned the rights to Spectre and its iconic characters.
Wait, back up a second. What the hell is the Thunderball controversy?
Oh.
Don't assume we're all Bond nerds here.
Fair enough. To put it simply, it's a legal battle that originated in the 1960s between Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond, and Kevin McClory, a screenwriter who collaborated with Fleming on a story treatment that eventually became the film Thunderball. McClory claimed co-ownership of certain Bond elements, including the Spectre organization and its leader, Blofeld.
So this legal shitstorm dragged on for years, even after both Fleming and McClory kicked the bucket.
Decades, in fact.
Jesus.
It wasn't until 2013, just a couple of years before Spectre's release, that a settlement was finally reached, giving Eon Productions the green light to use Spectre and its characters.
So Spectre was basically a giant middle finger to the legal system, a celebration of finally getting their hands on these iconic Bond elements.
Exactly. It was a long time coming. Spectre marked the return of classic Bond elements that had been absent for decades due to legal constraints.
It's like finally being able to play with your favorite toy after your asshole sibling kept it hostage in their closet for years.
That's a good way to put it.
Speaking of things being absent, what about Quantum? That shadowy organization from the earlier Craig Bond films. Did the writers just forget about them and pretend they never existed?
Not quite. They cleverly integrated Quantum into the existing Spectre narrative.
Oh, okay.
The writers basically retconned Quantum, revealing it to be a subsidiary of Spectre. It was a way of tying together the threads of the Craig era,
Right.
creating a more cohesive, overarching narrative.
Clever move. Though I'm sure some diehard Bond fans were probably scratching their heads trying to piece it all together.
All right, enough with the legal mumbo-jumbo and money talk. Let's get to the good stuff, the cast. We gotta talk about Monica Bellucci, right? The woman is a goddamn legend. And at 50 years old, she became the oldest Bond girl in history. How fucking badass is that?
It was a significant casting choice, and Bellucci brought a maturity and gravitas to the role of Lucia Chiara that's rarely seen in Bond films.
But she wasn't the only casting coup. There was a lot of mystery surrounding Christoph Waltz's character, Franz Oberhauser, who was later revealed to be the iconic Ernst Stavro Blofeld.
Yeah, Waltz's Blofeld. Genius casting. But get this, the dude initially turned down the role multiple times. Heard he wasn't keen on playing another straight-up villain. But then he got intrigued by the film's exploration of mass surveillance.
Right.
And how it intersects with power.
Waltz has spoken about that. He saw the film as an opportunity to explore contemporary anxieties about privacy and control in a way that Bond films hadn't really done before.
Deep shit, man. So Blofeld ends up being Bond's messed up foster brother in this whole twisted family drama. The writers really went there, huh?
They did. It's revealed that Bond and Blofeld share a past, both orphans taken in by Hannes Oberhauser.
Right.
Blofeld blames Bond for his father's death, for stealing his love and affection. It's a classic tale of sibling rivalry, but with world domination and a license to kill thrown into the mix.
Talk about some serious daddy issues, right? No wonder the guy's a supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, enough about this fucked up family dynamic. Let's shift gears and talk about the production itself. From what I've gathered, this thing was a logistical nightmare. A behemoth of a film that pushed everyone to their limits. Over 1,000 crew members, elaborate sets, stunts that would make Evil Knievel shit himself.
Yeah.
This was filmmaking on a grand scale.
Yeah.
And we can't forget that mind-blowing opening sequence in Mexico City during the Day of the Dead Festival.
Yeah.
Pure cinematic spectacle.
That opening scene is a testament to the sheer ambition of the filmmakers. Imagine shutting down the city square, coordinating thousands of extras in elaborate costumes, building giant skeletons, and then staging a goddamn helicopter fight in the middle of it all.
Hold up. They actually had a helicopter battle in the heart of Mexico City.
What?
Seriously.
Dead serious. And we're not talking about a quick flyby.
Right.
This was a full-on aerial duel with Bond clinging to the helicopter as it swoops and dives through the crowded streets. The technical challenges of filming that sequence must have been absolutely insane.
I bet. Did they use real choppers, or was it all CGI wizardry?
It was a mix of practical effects, miniatures, and CGI. They used actual helicopters, but they were also digitally augmented to enhance the spectacle and ensure safety during filming, you know? Gotta keep Bond alive for the next sequel.
It blows my mind how they pull this shit off.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of insane stunts, we gotta give props to Dave Bautista as Mr. Hanks. The dude was terrifying, a silent, hulking force of nature, like a modern-day Jaws with biceps the size of watermelons. Heard he only had one line in the entire film.
It's right. One word, shit.
Damn. Talk about commitment to a role. I read somewhere that Bautista, despite being this massive, intimidating dude, was actually nervous as hell about playing Mr. Hanks. He's a huge Bond fan and wanted to make sure he did the character justice.
He did, and then some. His performance is one of the highlights of Spectre.
Yeah.
And you're right, he was initially apprehensive about the role, worried that not having any dialogue would limit him as an actor. But he embraced the challenge and delivered a performance that's both physically imposing and surprisingly nuanced.
All right, enough gushing about Bautista. Let's talk about the film's reception. If I recall correctly, Spectre got some mixed reviews, right? Some critics were blown away, while others thought it was a bit too formulaic, a bit too predictable for a Bond film.
You're right. The critical response was somewhat divided. Some praised the action, the performances, the music, but others felt it didn't quite reach the same heights as Skyfall, which was a critical and commercial darling.
Yeah, Skyfall was a tough act to follow. But hey, Spectre still made a shit ton of money, so who really gives a damn what the critics think?
From a financial perspective, you're absolutely right. But critical reception does matter.
I guess, yes.
Especially for a franchise like Bond, you know?
Sure.
It influences how the series is perceived and ultimately impacts its long-term success.
Fair enough. Okay, before we wrap up this part of our Spectre deep dive, what stood out to you from all the source material?
What struck me is this constant tension between tradition and innovation. You have this iconic franchise with established tropes and expectations, and then you have these filmmakers who are trying to push boundaries, to bring something new to the table, while still honoring the legacy of Bond.
It's a tightrope walk, right? Got to please the diehard fans who crave the classic Bond experience, while also appealing to a new generation of viewers who might be looking for something a bit more modern, a bit more edgy.
Exactly. And I think that's the challenge every Bond film faces. How to stay true to the essence of the franchise while also evolving and staying relevant in a constantly changing world.
Damn, that's some deep shit. We'll leave you fine folks to ponder that for a while. We're going to grab another beer and be back in a jiffy with part 2 of this deep dive into the wild world of Spectre. Don't touch that dial.
All right, let's dive back into this glorious mess of a film. Where were we? Ah, yes, Spectre. A cinematic tightrope walk between appeasing those diehard Bond fans and pushing the boundaries of the franchise.
Damn right. It's a wonder this movie even got made with all the drama swirling around it.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, a little behind-the-scenes chaos adds to the legends, right?
True enough. Every Bond film seems to have its share of production nightmares and critical skirmishes. It's all part of the fun.
Speaking of those critical skirmishes, let's dig into those mixed reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Besides the inevitable Skyfall was better complaints, what were the main criticisms leveled at Spectre?
One common gripe was the convoluted plot.
Oh, right.
Even for a Bond film, some critics found the storyline overly complicated and a bit too reliant on coincidences. There were also some pacing issues. Some viewers felt that the film dragged in certain parts, especially toward the end.
Yeah, that whole Blofeld as Bond's evil foster brother thing was a bit out there. I get that they were trying to tie all the Craig Bond films together, but it felt a bit forced, like they were trying to shoehorn in a connection that wasn't really there.
I understand that criticism. It's a bold choice to retcon the entire Craig era into a single overarching narrative. Some might argue that it diminishes the standalone quality of those earlier films.
Right. Did they really need to make everything connect back to Blofeld and Spectre? Couldn't Bond have just faced a new, unrelated threat in this film? Keep things fresh, you know?
It's a valid point. There's definitely an argument for introducing new villains and storylines to keep the franchise feeling vibrant.
Yeah.
But I think there's also something satisfying about seeing these seemingly disparate threads woven together into a grand tapestry.
Yeah, I get that.
Yes.
Especially for a franchise as long-running as Bond. It's like giving the fans a knowing wink, connecting the dots and saying, hey, it was all part of a master plan all along.
Precisely. It's a way of paying homage to the franchise's history while also propelling it forward.
But let's be real. Most people flock to Bond films for the action, not the convoluted plot twists.
Yeah.
And Spectre definitely delivered on that front. That opening scene in Mexico City, that helicopter fight, pure cinematic adrenaline.
Absolutely. The action sequences in Spectre are top-notch, visually stunning, technically impressive, and guaranteed to get your heart racing.
Damn right. And that car chase through Rome. The Aston Martin DB10 was a goddamn work of art. They actually built that car specifically for the film.
The DB10 was indeed a showstopper, a perfect blend of classic Bond style and cutting-edge automotive design. And that chase scene, weaving through the streets of Rome, past ancient landmarks and historic piazzas, it was a masterclass in action filmmaking.
And it wasn't just the DB10. They had that slick Jaguar CX-75.
Right.
The one driven by Mr. Hanks. Heard they had to modify those cars extensively for the film because the original CX-75 was a hybrid, and the technology wasn't reliable enough for all the crazy stunts they were pulling off.
That's right. They ended up swapping out the hybrid engine for a more traditional internal combustion engine, a necessary compromise to ensure that the cars could handle the demands of those high-octane chase scenes.
Makes sense. Can't have Bond's car stalling out in the middle of a high-speed pursuit, right? Would totally ruin the mood.
Indeed. The show must go on, even if it requires some creative engineering solutions.
Okay, we've talked about the mixed critical reception, the action extravaganza, but how did Spectre fare at the box office? Did it live up to the hype, especially after Skyfall's record-breaking success? There were some pretty high expectations riding on this film.
Financially, Spectre was a massive success. It grossed over $880 million worldwide, making it one of the highest-grossing Bond films of all time.
So the audiences ate it up, even if some critics weren't as impressed. Guess that's the power of the Bond brand.
That's often the case with big-budget blockbusters. Audience enjoyment doesn't always perfectly align with critical acclaim.
True that. All right, we've covered a lot of ground here. The chaotic production, the legal battles, the controversial plot points, the stellar cast, the mind-blowing action, and the box office triumph. What else is there to say about Spectre? Anything particularly juicy or unexpected you stumble across in your research?
Well, one element that often gets overlooked is the film's score. Thomas Newman returned to compose the music for Spectre, and he delivered a score that's both thrilling and emotionally resonant. It perfectly captures the blend of action, intrigue, and emotional depth that defines the film.
Yeah, the score was fantastic. But what about the theme song? That was Sam Smith, right? Writings on the Wall. I remember that song getting some pretty mixed reactions. Some people loved it. Others thought it was a bit too mellow for a Bond theme.
It definitely sparked a debate. Some felt that it lacked the power and grandeur of Adele's Skyfall, which had become an instant classic.
Yeah.
But despite the mixed reactions, Writings on the Wall went on to win an Academy Award for Best Original Song, so it clearly resonated with a lot of people.
An Oscar, huh? Well, that shuts the haters up. Guess even a Bond theme song can be a polarizing force.
It's a reminder that artistic taste is subjective. What one person finds brilliant, another might find underwhelming.
True enough. You know, it's funny. Despite all the criticisms and the behind-the-scenes drama, I still enjoy watching Spectre. It's a fun, action-packed Bond film with some memorable moments and a few interesting ideas sprinkled in.
I agree. It's not a perfect film, but it's certainly entertaining.
But-
And it definitely left its mark on the Bond franchise.
Right. It was the last Craig Bond film for a while until No Time to Die finally hit theaters in 2021. And speaking of No Time to Die, maybe that's a good segue into the next part of our deep dive.
I think that's an excellent idea. No Time to Die picks up where Spectre left off, both narratively and thematically.
Right.
It grapples with some of the same issues: legacy, identity, the changing role of a secret agent in a world increasingly defined by technology and global threats.
Sounds like we've got our work cut out for us. All right, you beautiful degenerates. We're going to grab another beer and dive headfirst into No Time to Die. Stay tuned. All right, you beautiful degenerates, welcome back for the final round of our Spectre extravaganza. We're shifting gears now to No Time to Die, the grand finale of the Daniel Craig era. This one picks up 5 years after Spectre, with Bond enjoying a well-deserved retirement. But of course, you know some batshit crazy shit is about to go down,
Of course.
dragging our man back into the game.
It's the classic hero's journey, isn't it? The call to adventure, the reluctant protagonist pulled back into the world they thought they'd left behind.
Yeah, but this time, it feels different. Bond's older.
Yeah.
He's carrying some serious baggage.
Right.
He's not the invincible badass we're used to seeing. He's facing his own mortality, grappling with where he fits in a world that's moved on without him.
It's an interesting exploration of Bond as a character, you know?
Yeah.
He's forced to confront his past, his demons, the consequences of his actions. He's also facing the fact that he's not getting any younger.
Yeah, no more bidding every hot bait he meets. Well, maybe one or two.
Right.
But speaking of hot babes, we got to talk about Lea Seydoux, right?
Oh, yeah.
She's back as Madeline Swan, Bond's love interest from Spectre. And let me tell you, she's more than just a pretty face in this one.
Yeah.
She's got her own secrets,
Yeah.
her own agenda, and she plays a crucial role in the whole damn plot.
Madeline Swan is a complex character. She's haunted by her past, just like Bond.
Right.
Their relationship is put through the ringer in No Time to Die. It's not just a typical Bond fling. It's a deeper, more emotionally nuanced connection.
Yeah, this ain't just a shag and run for Bond. This is the real deal.
Yeah.
A love that could actually make him want to hang up his Walther PPK and settle down.
All right.
But of course, being a Bond film, things get seriously fucked up. And their relationship takes some major hits.
It wouldn't be a Bond film without some heartbreak, betrayal, and near-death experiences.
Right.
It's all part of the formula.
Speaking of formulas, No Time to Die does some interesting things with the classic Bond tropes. It subverts our expectations, takes some risks, and ultimately delivers a Bond film that feels both familiar and surprisingly fresh.
It's a testament to the filmmaker's willingness to push boundaries while still honoring the core elements of the franchise.
Right.
They managed to breathe new life into a character that's been around for over 6 decades.
Okay, let's get down to business.
Yeah.
Without spoiling it for those who haven't seen it yet, what's the villainous scheme this time? Who's the big bad Bond has to square off against?
The main antagonist is Lucifer Safin, played by Rami Malek.
Okay.
He's a brilliant, ruthless terrorist with a personal vendetta against Spectre.
Wait a minute. He hates Spectre. So Bond's kind of on the same side as his old nemesis. Talk about a plot twist.
In a way, yes. Wow. Bond is forced to team up with Blofeld, who's still rotting away in prison, to take down this new, even more dangerous threat. It's a classic case of the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Damn, that's some next level shit. Talk about strange bedfellows. But let's be honest, the real villain in this movie is fate itself. Bond's past, his choices, his loves, it all comes back to haunt him.
There's a definite sense of inevitability, of destiny playing its hand. Bond can't escape who he is, the life he's chosen.
And in the end, He makes the ultimate sacrifice, right? For love, for country, for the greater good. It's a goddamn tearjerker.
It's a fitting end to Daniel Craig's tenure as Bond.
Yeah.
A poignant, bittersweet conclusion that brings his character arc full circle. It's a bold move to kill off such an iconic character, but it felt earned, necessary even.
Damn right. All right, before we get all choked up, let's wrap this up. We've gone deep on Spectre, explored the twists and turns of No Time to Die. What's the big takeaway? What should our listeners be pondering as they stumble out of this deep dive and back into their miserable lives?
What's fascinating is this idea of evolution. The Bond franchise has always adapted, changed with the times. From the campy adventures of the Connery era to the gritty realism of the Craig films, Bond has remained a cultural icon by reflecting the anxieties and aspirations of each generation.
It's not just about the gadgets, the cars, the explosions. It's about something deeper,
Yeah.
something that taps into our collective psyche. As the Bond franchise continues to evolve, it'll be interesting to see how the character navigates this ever-changing world. Will he remain a symbol of power and masculinity, or will he embrace a more nuanced, introspective identity?
Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, James Bond will always be a captivating figure, a reflection of our desires, fears, and fantasies.
Damn straight. All right, you magnificent bastards, that's a wrap on tonight's Spectre Deep Dive. Go forth, drink yourself silly, and remember shaken, not stirred.